Okay, take a look at how this parable begins. Luke chapter 15, beginning at verse 11. It says, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger one said to his father, 'Father, give me my share of the estate.' So he divided his property between them." Now, back then, legally, a father could give out his inheritance ahead of time. In other words, he didn't have to wait until he died. He could do it beforehand, but culturally, you would never dare to ask for your inheritance because it was rude and disrespectful, much like it would be today. And so here is this father, and his younger son comes to him and says, "Hey, Dad, I know you're going to be living for a while, but I want my inheritance now. Like, I can't wait. I want it right now." Now, if you're the father, you know this can't be good, right? I mean, you know your son is not asking for his inheritance now because he thinks he can invest it better than you can. No, he's asking for it because he wants to use it. He wants to spend it. He wants to get rid of it. Well, that's at least what he thinks. And so the father now, he has a choice. Do I give my son his inheritance, or do I hold off? Do I act disrespected, or do I go ahead and just give it to him? And so the father, he gives it to him out of love for his son. And you remember what happens after this? The younger son, he goes off to a distant country, and he squanders his wealth. He parties it up every day of the week. No rules, no responsibilities. He's living his best life now. Until one day he wakes up and he realizes, uh-oh, I'm out of money. And all of a sudden he finds himself now looking for basic necessities like food and water. And to make matters worse, there was a famine in the land at that time. And so it wasn't like there was a lot of food and water available. And so finally one day he goes up to a farmer and he says, "Sir, I'm hungry. I've got nothing. I've got no money. I'll work for you, whatever it is that you need." And remember the farmer, he says, "Okay, I got some buckets here of feed for the pigs. Go and feed the pigs." And so he goes and he brings the buckets, he pours them into the troughs, the pigs start eating, and he just stands there looking at these pigs eating. And as he's doing that, you remember what happens? All of a sudden he's like, "Oh, this food looks kind of good. I mean, I'm starving. I could eat all of it right now." And then he thinks, wait a second, what am I doing? This is crazy. Take a look at what happens next. It says, "When he came to his senses, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare, and here I am starving to death? I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' And so he got up and he went to his father." And friends, this is the moment where the father has to determine how he's going to respond to his son. And you know, of all the choices that he could have made in that moment, take a look at the choice that the father chose to make. It says, "But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with" what? "Compassion for him. And he ran to his son, he threw his arms around him, and he kissed him." Now think about for a moment. Here's the younger son. He's asked for his inheritance. He squanders it. He then goes around and parties it up. He disrespects his family name. And now he's coming back to mooch off his dad some more. But how does the father respond? It says that he was filled with compassion for his son, and he ran to him, and he hugged him, and he kissed him. You know, sometimes when I read this parable, I think about the other ways that the father could have responded. For example, what if the son had come back and the father had yelled at him and screamed at him and said, "I told you so. Look what you've done. You've disrespected our family." I also think about the fact that the son could have come back and the father could have disowned him. He could have turned him away. I said, "You're dead to me. I want nothing to do with you. Get out. You already got your inheritance." I also think about the fact that the son could have come back and the father might not have even been there. They could have packed up and moved away.